Hello, this is LCE Graphics. This is our Get Acquainted video. It's helping our customers get acquainted with the BST vacuum feed collator. This is a very good collating system. It's been around for quite a while. One of the things that Bourg prides itself in is being able to control the collator through electronics and software, and the operator can basically control most of the functions on the collator from the touchpad. Now we're going to go, in this video, we're going to go over all the buttons, controls, switches to acquaint you with what they are and what they do. We'll start with the main control panel. Here you have your emergency stop. Now that's different than regular stop, because if you push the emergency stop, the collator will stop dead right where it's at. Even if the sheets are halfway out of the bins or just being fed, it's an emergency stop in case you see a jam or something happens that you want to stop the collator immediately. The next button that we want to acquaint you with is a regular stop button. Now what that one does is actually more like a stop after you've completed my cycle button. So when you're running along and you push this stop button, the collator will feed the last set, complete, deposit it into the stitcher, and then stop. And then of course you have to manually stitch your set and continue it down the production line. This is your run button. Now if you notice, it has a green LED built into it. That green LED tells you a lot. If you've got a problem and you try to push this, nothing's going to happen. No green LED. I just push the stop button. Or if there's a jam, many different things, like a door's open somewhere, something that security, a stop button in another tower, your stitcher may not be running. In that case, you go to hit your stop button, your run button, and nothing's going to happen. And you're going to have a readout on your screen. So when you get a green light on your green LED on your green button, then you know that everything's good and your collator is ready to start feeding and running. Next down on your control panel is your calibrate button. Now what that does is, when you push the calibrate button, what you're telling the collator is, I want you to reread all of the bins I have paper in and recalibrate all of my miss and doubles detects. That's, for example, if you're running a job and for some reason something changes with paper. The paper gets thicker, heavier, maybe even a situation where the ink coverage changes. It's the same paper, same type of job, except that it may have a heavy black solid in an area where the other one did not. In that case, you push your calibrate button. Or if something happens that you have power loss, or you have to turn the collator off and turn it back on, you may want to recalibrate your sensors. The button next to that is your Conveyor Clear. When you push that button, the conveyors on both powers run, and that's mainly to clear any paper that might still be in the conveyor that hasn't been deposited into the stitcher. The next one is your Exclude button. Now what that does is, you have a defective bin, say, a bin that's not working properly, giving you problems. Rather than deal with it, you can push your Exclude button and exclude that bin. You can exclude up to 5 bins in a twin tower system. So that's a button you may want to use, because Bourgs require bins to be in sequence. So you can't just skip from 3 and go to 5 without excluding bin 4. Your next button in sequence is your motor button. What that does is increases the speed of the motor, the speed of the conveyor. The next button is your ACC, or accessories button. Now what that does, you use that button when changing the air or vacuum. For example, you push it here. On your control panel will say air, then you push enter, and then you push a successive button, vacuum or air, whichever one you want to decrease or increase. If you select vacuum, you can increase vacuum, as I just did, to 4 or 5, or back to the default at 3. And on air, I can go up to 5, or I can go down to 2, the default, and then hit enter, and your changes have been made. This next button is your manual stitch button. Now what that does, the one with the symbol of the hand, that's not just a manual stitch button. That's also, I call it the yes button, because when you calibrate a set for the first time and it's in the stitcher and you've checked it and you're satisfied with the set, it's complete, all the pages are in proper order, and you push this button, you're telling the collator, yes, I accept all the settings of the doubles detects and miss detects and yes, all the bins that are running are in sequence. So that's a yes button and manual. Here you have your readout, which tells you your set counter reading and other information, your information control. This is your enter button. Whenever you're inputting information into the system, you push enter there, and these are your numerical keys. Now you can see here you have your clear button, which clears your total count or clears any other mistake you might make when you're trying to program the unit. And of course, these are multi-function buttons. It's not just a clear button, but it's also bins up, which means it'll move the bins up and then down if you want to change that for some reason. Like you need access to something, you need to move the bin up to get to it, to have more room to get your hand in there, whatever the reason might be. Then of course you have your down and up arrows here. That's for increasing and decreasing any program you set in there, whether it's speed of the collator, the vacuum and air. That's what those two buttons are for. Now your next button here at the bottom is the select button. And what that's done is when you're making changes. For example, if you change program. When you clear a program and you go to program that program 5, for example, like we have set here, if you're going to clear program 5 and change it, you push clear the information on program 5, then you push select, and then you can change the program however you want to change it. And each time, of course, you hit enter. The total button just gives you the total reading, how many you've run on the set, or the total of the run. The next one is your preset, which you can set your preset counter. Say, for example, you want to batch your booklets in hundreds. You can preset the collator 100. It'll stop and idle every 100, and then you push go again, and that way you can bundle your booklets in hundreds or 50s. Or if you have a 5,000 run and you want it to shut down at the end of your run, you set it for 5,000. Insert is, for example, when you're straight collating mostly, and say you want to, every 500 sheets you want to insert a pink slip sheet. Well, you load one bin with pink paper and the other 19 bins with the regular job, and then you hit run and insert program 1. Now what that'll do is every 100 sheets it'll feed one sheet out of that bin into your set. Or you can set it for 500, 300, however you want to do it. The next one is overlap. Now what overlap is, your sheets when they come out of the collator, they're always defaulted at 30. See, I just pushed overlap, it's flashing now. 30 centimeters is, millimeters, is the distance that from the lead edge of the sheet to the next lead edge of the sheet. In other words, the sheets are like shingle as they come out of the collator. Every 30 millimeters you have another edge of a sheet. And what that does is it allows for feeding a thick set, so it's not all in one thick clump. For example, it irons it out and spreads it out a little bit longer. By pushing the overlap button, you can change it to 60, 90, 150, 200, and then 0, of course, which would mean the set would come out lined up. 15 and 30. 30, of course, is your default setting. Now your next one is skip. Now what skip can do several things, but the main thing that skip's used for is for successive running a tower. For example, you've got a job which is 8 or 9 signatures, and you want to load 8 in tower A and 8 in tower B, so you can actually push skip program 1, skip program 2. What will happen is as soon as the last sheet is fed on any of the bins on the main tower, it'll automatically switch to the back tower. You can load the front tower while you're running the back tower. And you can also do that with bins within a tower. Like if you've got a 5 signature job, you can load 5 in the top, 5 in the bottom, and it'll switch from top to bottom automatically and then back to the top. And that way you can continuous load, and it increases productivity dramatically. Now your next series of buttons, this is your turbo. Now what that only works when you're running 2 towers. Basically it just speeds up the process. But you want to make sure that you're running smoothly in standard mode before you go into turbo. Because turbo things behave a little bit differently. It runs faster, and it can be more difficult to diagnose bins that are misfeeding or giving you trouble. But anyway, that's what the turbo mode does. And of course,